Alright, so today we're going to be looking at SCP-2662, also known as Cthulhu. It's Object Class Keter by TheVolgun. As always, I'm going to be leaving a link to the original video and channel down in the description below, so go ahead and make sure that you check them out. So, a couple just key things. I really focused on upping up the volume because I've heard a lot of people saying that it's really low. So hopefully this is a little better. I ran through a little bit of testing on it, and it sounds pretty good. I mean, it sounds pretty decent, but do let me know in the comments down below if it's too low, too high, anything like that. I'm still trying to find that sweet spot. As far as the actual camera, I feel like I finally got it to be able to focus on me, so it's not so blurry, and it looks pretty nice. A lot better than how I had it with the actual webcam. Let me know about that too. I just realized how scraggly my beard looks, and okay, yeah, definitely doesn't look as good as with the webcam. But in any case, Cthulhu. So a lot of Lovecraftian background. I've been into Lovecraft for quite some time actually. I've been not necessarily reading the books on them, but have been more just looking up more like YouTube videos on them that people have done. Like I believe the Exploring series even had some. I've learned about like Leonarthotep, Yog-Sothoth, all those big ones, elder ones, old ones, all that. And Cthulhu, obviously, one of the more popular ones, and also one that was kind of popular for me, and kind of just excited to kind of see what the SCP version's take on it is going to be. So, I'm not going to say too much more. I don't want to take up too much time. Let's go ahead and get to the actual video. But before we do, don't forget to like, subscribe, it really does help me a lot. Hit that notification bell so you get notified every time I do upload. Sometimes I'm uploading twice a day. Now I'm working on them whenever I can, mainly because it's school, and releasing them at some point whenever I can. That way, you got a pretty consistent amount of videos coming at you weekly. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and see what Cthulhu is all about.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Researcher Miller, and the SCP we're going to be studying today is SCP-2662. Object Class Keter. Special Containment Procedures. Containment of SCP-2662 is primarily focused on preventing unauthorized entry to its containment unit. For this purpose, on-site Task Force Tau 9, belligerent bodyguards, has been organized to guard SCP-2662's containment unit and keep track of new religious followings focusing on the worship of SCP-2662. Task Force Tau 9 is, and the following is stricken from the document, to use non-lethal methods when dealing with an attempt of authorized entry. Authorized to use lethal force if necessary. All members of Task Force Tau 9 are to be tested biannually for cognitohazardous influence. As containment of SCP-2662 is completely voluntary, it is currently contained in an enlarged humanoid containment unit with standard safety measures for low-risk humanoids as detailed in Document 0998-KA. Additionally, SCP-2662 is allowed one copy of a daily newspaper of its choice, a computer, and requested computer games totaling no more than $50 every month.
Okay, before it goes in the description, and it has been a while since I've seen one from TheVolgun, where I try not to read past what he says, more just so I feel like for me at least it helps me better understand it. But $50 or computer games and newspapers, $50. It's not making a lot of sense as far as to why he would want these things. But then again, it could be different take. I mean, usually with Cthulhu in general, it's more. I mean, the part about the cognitohazard. I think there was also a movie. I can't remember off the top of my head. That kind of also mentioned, or that there was a theory going on. I think it was the one that you couldn't see, Bird Box. I haven't seen it, but I heard a theory on it saying that may have been Cthulhu related, because apparently one of the sketches that the person had resembled kind of like a picture of him, and it was. I mean, I saw it, and I saw that part of the person's video, and it was essentially driving people crazy, right? If you ever saw him. Hence the cognitohazard effect. Now, I mean, still don't know why, and I don't even have any clue to kind of give like a reason as to why he would request or be given these things.
Description: SCP-2662 is a cognitohazardous entity approximately 4 meters in height and 200 kilograms in weight. SCP-2662 appears to be in a vaguely humanoid shape, with approximately 20 additional muscular hydrostats in similar structure to cephalopod limbs attached to its back. These limbs are fully functional and allow SCP-2662 to perform up to 10 different tasks at once.
Okay, so also real quick, he's not as big as he usually gets pictured as, being able to stand on the ocean floor practically. And only 200 kilograms, but just based on how I usually see him in Lovecraftian type scenarios, is he would weigh most likely a lot more than that. Not most likely, he would. So very more, as he said, humanoid.
SCP-2662's primary anomalous effect only occurs after long-term repeated exposure, usually being in the same room as or interacting daily with SCP-2662. Subjects exposed to SCP-2662 for a period of 6 months or longer are at risk of becoming acutely aware of SCP-2662's wants or needs and are compelled to fulfill them. They may also suffer from quasi-psychotic episodes when under stress. SCP-2662 is unable to affect humans that have a 2 or higher MARS, Mind Affecting Resistance Scale, score. SCP-2662's secondary anomalous effect is the spontaneous generation of religious followings at an approximate rate of at least once a month. This generation is involuntary and causes SCP-2662 notable distress. Religious groups generated by SCP-2662 usually focus on attempting to break into its containment unit in order to perform various rituals that are violent and/or sexual in nature. These groups tend to be highly organized and appear to adapt to each failed attempt, despite there being generally no contact between different generated religious followings. The following is an incomplete log of incidents relating to SCP-2662. A full list can be found in Document 2662-1.
So obviously with that part about, for myself, is that those ones who are trying to break into him and doing violent and or sexual things in nature, it might be the whole, most likely it is, the whole cognitive hazard effect, isn't it? One of the things, I don't remember if I mentioned in the beginning, but that just looking at them would cause madness. Kind of seems like they're kind of going for that here, but it doesn't seem as much as I would have normally thought at first.
Incident 2662-7. On 2003, a religious group known as Towards Him successfully broke into SCP-2662's containment. 2250. SCP-2662 is seen taking a shower in preparation for sleep. There is a loud noise as previously undiscovered explosives are detonated underneath the center of SCP-2662's containment unit. 2251. 5 injured civilians climb out of the hole left by the detonation. SCP-2662 leaves the shower to investigate the noise. 2252. Agent and notify Task Force Tau 9 of a breach into containment. They attempt to suppress the initial 5 civilians unsuccessfully as 5 more arrive with weapons. 2256. After a brief struggle, Agent and are pinned down and tied with rope by the civilians. The injured civilians approach SCP-2662. The uninjured civilians stab their hands with knives, masturbate, and then draw unknown symbols on the walls with a mixture of sexual fluids and blood. 2258. SCP-2662 says, "Aw man, come on. That's really not sanitary or necessary." SCP-2662 appears to gag upon witnessing the symbols. The injured civilians successfully corner SCP-2662 in the shower stall.
Okay, and that's not the thing I thought he was going to say. I don't know what the fuck's going on. Honestly, it could only be affected in their minds, obviously, but I would assume this to be the type of things that he would enjoy. I mean, actually, I don't. I wouldn't know if he technically enjoys it or would want them to do it for some reason, because they did say it was involuntary as far as the effects he actually has on people. So he technically doesn't have any control over it.
2259. The injured civilians are seen squeezing blood out of their wounds and rubbing it onto SCP-2662 while singing. SCP-2662 says, "Jesus Christ, stop, please. I just took a shower." 2300. Task Force Tau 9 arrived to SCP-2662's containment unit. Task Force Tau 9 managed to suppress all civilians successfully and proceed to move SCP-2662 to a temporary unit until repairs can be completed. Incident 2662-13. On 2005, a religious group known as the Betrothed successfully broke into SCP-2662's containment. 822. SCP-2662 is seen eating breakfast and reading a newspaper. 824. Security officers stationed at SCP-2662's containment unit enter with a researcher. The researcher can be seen carrying a piglet. 825. SCP-2662 says, "Can I help you?"
Okay, hold on. At a certain point, I don't even think this thing is supposed to contain him. I mean, because I feel like he would have at least the physical strength to break out of there. I think it's more the containment is to prevent other people from getting into his little area of capability that he is involuntarily producing. And I can already tell with this whole thing with the piglet is already going.
826. Researcher says, "Oh, our Lord, please accept this innocent suckling swine, freshly orphaned from slaughter of both mother and father. May its soul of loss fuel you." Researcher proceeds to castrate the piglet in front of SCP-2662 and place the testes on SCP-2662's food. 828. SCP-2662 says, "No thanks. I'm full. Go home. Your, Lord is pleased with the offering." Task Force Tau 9 is notified of a breach into containment. 829. SCP-2662 attempts to read its newspaper. Researcher slits the pig's neck and throws it onto the table. Blood splatters the newspaper. 830. SCP-2662 says, What? Look, can you go read a Bible or something? You really need it." SCP-2662 puts the newspaper down. The accompanying security officers execute researcher via gunshot to the head. Then they begin consuming her. 832. SCP-2662 leaves the scene to vomit in a toilet.
And also at a certain point, Cthulhu just kind of seems... He doesn't even seem like the whole dark god that he usually is supposed to be portrayed as. He just seems like kind of like a... I mean, obviously not just a dude, but like someone who's just trying to do his thing and people are just going crazy around him and doing weird stuff.
834. Task Force Tau 9 arrived to move SCP-2662 to a temporary containment unit and detain the guards. After further investigation, all involved personnel were civilians posing as personnel. It is unknown as to the whereabouts of the actual researcher and security officers. Incident 2662-78. On the 2014, an unnamed religious group consisting of D-Class personnel and 2 members of Task Force Tau 9 successfully broke into SCP-2662's containment. SCP-2662 was redesignated as Keter upon further review of Incident 2662-78.
Real quick, I do remember them saying that that it wouldn't work on somebody who had like a 2 MRA level of resistance. I mean, is anybody in that little threshold, like maybe Dr. Bright, that's the only one I can take off the top of my head, that wouldn't be affected by it?
407. SCP-2662 can be seen sleeping in its bed. 410. The entirety of Task Force Town 9 is called for an off-site mission. Against orders, Task Force Town 9 chooses to leave 4 of its members behind to keep watch on SCP-2662. 4:15. 2 of the remaining members tackle and lock the other 2 in an unused containment unit. 4:20. A cargo truck arrives on site where SCP-2662 is being kept. 4:25. The 2 remaining members unload the cargo of D-Class personnel. They lead the D-Class personnel to Task Force Town 9's armory. 4:30. The D-Class and remaining members arm themselves from the armory and break into SCP-2662's containment unit. 4:31. SCP-2662 is roused. Several D-Class personnel guard the exit to the containment unit as well as the corresponding hallway. SCP-2662 says, what? Are we moving? I'm not scheduled until next week. 4:35. Agent and the 2 remaining available members of Task Force Town 9 begin undressing the D-Class personnel that are not guarding. 4:36. SCP-2662 attempts to alert Task Force Town 9 to no response. 4:37. Agent and begin carving symbols into the buttocks and thighs of the undressed D-Class personnel. The D-Class personnel begin to engage in group sex after being carved.
I kind of like the fact that he tried to contact Task Force Town 9 just to kind of be like, hey, shit's going crazy. But yeah, I don't know. I just thought that was kind of funny.
4:39. SCP-2662 says, what the fuck? Seriously? Now? Look, seriously, can you go find another god? I hear Buddhism is all the rage. D-Class 99304 attempts to pull SCP-2662 into the group. SCP-2662 responds by saying, the fuck? Stop! Seriously! Lord commands you and all that stuff to cut this shit out. 4:40. All D-Class personnel currently engaged in sex cease their movements. They all turn to stare at SCP-2662. Task Force Town 9 arrive at the off-site meeting point only to be told no such mission exists. Task Force Town 9 begin moving back to site. 4:41. SCP-2662 says, oh thank God, I can control you guys now. Kinda. Maturity's happening right on time. Good to know. Okay, tell me what the fuck is going on here.
Okay, so he's young. I don't know. I mean, that I know he's not these many thousands of years old. I'm assuming maybe teenage years, just because the video games, maybe going in closer to 18, possibly, just because I don't really know too many teenagers who read newspapers. I mean, hell, I never really read them at all. But so he can kind of control them now, right? So, I mean, I guess that's good if you don't want people doing certain things around you.
4:42. Agent says, after the blood birthing ritual, we are going to take you to your sacred chambers where we, our families, and our lineage will remain in service for you for all eternity. The people here cage you. With us, you may go where you please. 4:45. SCP-2662 responds by saying, you must be kidding. I can leave whenever I want. I just have to ask. Besides, the D-Class personnel begin to continue engaging in group sex. SCP-2662 says, seriously, stop. You're all fucking disgusting. I'm not even ready to settle down with a cult yet. I'm only like 200 years old. I'm barely legal.
Alright, so he's 200 years old, and he said he's barely legal, so 18, I'm assuming, in our age. And as far as I would be curious to see what kind of interactions he would have with other SCPs, specifically that little cognitive hazard effect that he gives off. And honestly, I typically compare a lot to like maybe some of the more popular ones, like I wonder how it would affect 682, maybe 049, 096, 106, and an interesting one would probably be, I think it was John Doe, or the guy that everyone just kind of always kind of forgets about, right? And also Dr. Bright. So just to kind of see what would happen in that type of scenario.
446. Agent says, "Do you really think the Foundation will let you go if you ask? Well, you can certainly ask. You'll be sorely disappointed, my lord." 448. SCP-662 says, "Yeah, well, if it turns out to be the case, I can just wait until I'm strong enough to break out. In the meantime, I'm going to sit in the bathroom and wait. The rest of you can do your stupid blood orgy." SCP-2662 moves to the shower stall and turns on the water. It sits in the shower stall for the remainder of the incident.
Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about that in a minute. Before I do, it is insanely toasty here with these lights. And so, essentially, he's pretty much a child still, or teen, right? Being barely legal. And he's kind of still feeling his things out as far as what he's able to actually do. Now, curious to how they found him. I mean, did they find him was it Rayleigh? It was supposed to be kind of like where he was supposed to be dormant, but obviously if he's this young, obviously probably most likely a different backstory and origin on it. But it definitely did not expect them to take that kind of turn in terms of kind of making it more of a comedy, or making it somewhat, I guess, funny. I mean, just like his response to these type of weird things. I mean, what would you do if you had people trying to have an orgy in front of you? And I also just realized, man, I am sweating just sitting here. But yeah, so it seems like his biggest thing is just that effect he has on people as, I get, involuntarily making them a slave. I mean, I don't know if it ends up being permanent. I mean, I would assume so. Or maybe they don't even really know because they typically take him out, right? As far as him being able to leave, I feel like he'd be able to leave in any case. I mean, I felt like for the most part, I didn't see anybody who, unless the ones who were killing the people who were affected. So it looks like even those who could withstand that effect, seems like they're not a whole lot in number. They just managed to be able to shoot them, right? So I feel like, honestly, right now, he could probably escape, and even if he doesn't, and he just decides to leave, I feel like it could pretty much destroy the world. I mean, involuntarily destroy the world. I mean, unless that ends up being a thing. Maybe if they can find some way for him to be able to control it later on, since he's still barely legal, like around 18 in our age, he might be able to control that effect. And if he does, I say keep him distracted, have him be something like, I mean, he seems to enjoy computer games, reading newspapers. Have him do that for a while, and then possibly even turn him to someone that can end up helping catch other SCPs. I mean, that's kind of just the way I see it right now. But in any case, let's go ahead and do it for this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, really does help me a lot. Hit that dislike button if you didn't like it, helps me improve the channel. If you're curious to see what's coming up next, hit the description down below. You're going to see a little list there. There's a reason why there's not necessarily a top 5 anymore. I'm going to explain it in the channel video coming up here pretty soon. Still got school kind of throwing me around for loops, specifically with this internship, but I'm going to continue to try to upload whenever I can, as much as I can. Hey kids, talking way too much. I'm going to explain that in the channel update video. So, bye.